44. Please call the roll.
Rahman.
Present.
Long.
Here.
Howell.
Here.
Cavell.
Here.
Smith Charles is absent. Whitebird.
I'm here.
Hoffman.
Present.
Markham.
I am here.
Oh, Woodward.
Here.
You have quorum.
Okay, great. Next up is Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand if you can. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alright. Next, we have approval of the previous minutes. Moved by Commissioner Long, supported by Commissioner Hoffman. All in favor of approving the previous minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Next up, we have approval of today's agenda. Make sure you refresh your computers so you have the latest agenda. I'll take a motion. Commissioner Rahman, supported by Commissioner Weipert.
No.
Any additions or deletions? All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next, we have our public comment. Is there anyone here that wishes to address this committee on any item on the agenda this morning? We have a caller 1.
Is there anyone here that wishes to address?
I think that might just be a technical difficulty.
Oh, that's me.
And I think they muted it now, so we should be.
Okay, good. Okay. I was caller 1, I guess. Wow. Okay, seeing nobody else, I will close our first public comment. We have no communications and we will move into our item number 8, department recommendations. First up is 8A, fiscal year 2024 year-end report. Motion? Commissioner Powell, supported by Commissioner Long. I see we have Ms. Johnson at the end of the table.
Hello,
Hello.
how are you?
Good,
Good.
how are you?
I'm good. So this is the annual year-end report. It comes over as a preliminary view before the audit, where, as you know, we're in the middle of the audit right now, so some of these numbers are gonna change as we go through the audit and make sure that everything is covered. A couple of things that I do wanna point out. One of the things that we do with this report is we kind of go through and on page 14, you'll see where the summary by department is, and you'll see you're not gonna see very many unfavorable amounts because this is the time of the year that we go through and shore those things up with the budget to make sure that we stay in line with guidelines. So a couple of things that I wanna bring to note is the summary of all this. I'm gonna flip you back, sorry, to page 1. And the general purpose fund balance at this point is $293 million, 293.6. That is about 57 million more than we ended the year last year with. I'm gonna walk through those few things that make that we're not, we didn't get an influx of tax dollars or anything, so we've done some things. We've been expecting for probably 2 or 3 years some FEMA reimbursement from way back during CARES Act and when ARPA first started and some of the Homeland Security things, we just got that. So there's $7 million that we had not anticipated because at this point, the auditors were like, I think you should probably not count on that money. And as soon as we did that, now we got the money, so maybe that's how we do this going forward, I don't know. We have 17 million that we used ARPA dollars to cover Health and Human Services employees. And so that 17 million is usually covered by the general fund, so that's flowing back into the general fund, kind of under the revenue loss 6.1 umbrella. We also paid back the funds for the purchase of Pontiac, which was about 20 million dollars. So that's an addition in that because we had taken that out last year. We also got $3 million back that we didn't anticipate from the Raffaele settlements. So we, that was like 48 or 49, and then we got 10 back right away because people didn't request their dollars. And then this is the last tranche of money that we got, so that's another $3 million. So that leaves us about $10 to $12 million, and what that is, please ask me questions. But what that is at the end of the year, we always have to put our investments at market value, regardless of when they're due and what they look like. So as you recall, 2 years ago, we took a substantial hit in our fund balance because the investments had a market value that was less. We weren't gonna realize that loss, but based on GASB rules, and you have to take a snapshot in time, at that snapshot in time, that's what those investments were worth. So if we'd have turned them in early, we would have lost, I think the total was $25 million. Those investments matured last September and then this September of '24. So over the 2 years, we've been recovering those dollars, and that additional 10 million is the final recovery of all of those market losses that were just really on paper because we held those investments to maturity. And so now my understanding of those investments were they were due in like September of '23 and somewhere in September of '24. So at the end of September '24, all of those investments have matured and we have realized the full value. So we don't have a market loss per se that's gonna go in the financials this year. So that's what the balance of this is, it puts it back in the fund balance. And other than that, I will just address individual questions if you have them.
Okay,
And if you don't, I'll go sit back down. Oh wait, no.
I will open it up to the committee. Commissioner Long, followed by Commissioner Cavell.
All right, thank you. Just so on the, so on some of the donations, like the sheriff's office and public services, I see that, and then Children's Village said there was 170 only were cash donations. So like, what are some examples of the sheriffs? What kind of donations do they get for 35,000 if it's not like cash donations? What do they get? Or the animal shelter for 22,000?
Well, the animal shelter I can answer, because we used to put a detailed report in the quarterly forecast, and I asked them to take it out because it was a 15-page take a
Okay.
penny, leave a penny report. Every time someone leaves their 10 cents in animal control, they
Right,
were
so I
putting
thought-
it on a report and reporting it. I see that there is information regarding
Do I have
the
another connection?
donations. If you go to page 62,
Oh, I guess I'm on the wrong, I have to go on the other thing, year-end report. Okay, okay. I can look it up then. It's on there for the sheriff's
yeah,
department
those are,
stuff?
that is
Okay.
the documentation for.
Thank you, I was on the other part, the
Okay.
item summary, so I didn't
Okay.
see this, so.
You'll see emails and receipts and things like
Okay.
that there.
I just was wondering, cause it just said $170 of cash on that one item, so, okay, I'll look at myself, thank you.
You're welcome. If you have any questions after that,
All right.
just let me know.
Yeah, thank you. 62 you said, right?
62.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Cavell.
Thank you. Two things, Cheryl. You said our fund balance went up to $293 million?
Where's your dog?
Just double check the number. It went to, yes, 293, 631, 652. That's the estimate at this point. We still may have some audit adjustments.
Sure.
Here it is.
And our property tax revenues were 308 million. Is that a,
Yeah, I believe that's what's in here.
okay, just wanna make sure I understood that. And then the second question was, can you, and you might have been saying this when you were talking through the numbers, but talk a little bit about planned use of fund balance? We had some, right, 5 million and then 19.8 million.
Alright,
Yeah, this,
transportation, paid.
so the planned use of fund balance at the bottom of this summary sheet is a little confusing. Because this is kind of like what the budgeted planned use was and then what the actual planned use was. So what I can tell you is we did take some things out of planned use to cover some of the departments that were over. We had talked about some of the sheriff overtime, we were gonna take that out of there to cover it, to make sure that they were made whole. as far as what the actual planned use and how this fits together, this is just really where we're at from where we planned on being in our adopted budget and our amended budget. This doesn't have a lot to do with the actuals, it's just the budget piece of it. And I know it's confusing, I
Yeah.
apologize.
No,
I
it's
can't
okay.
think of a clear way to explain it to you.
Yeah. I guess we are, to make sure I'm understanding then, we are not, our fund balance is going up, not down.
Right.
Even though there are these uses of fund balance,
Right,
because they
so-
are planned.
Right, and so part of what we do is like we plan to do, you know, we planned $5 million was gonna come out of fund balance to cover the budget as we put together for '24.
Yeah.
So then as things come through the board, we add staff, we get grants, we do those things, and then that changes the budget of what the planned use is. And the planned use is kind of the bucket that we put money in that we're not using and we take money out of that we're not using.
Mhm.
So that's why it doesn't really give a great picture of what's going on in actuality, because in actuality, the fund balance grew by 57.
Got it.
Because of those other things that are
Okay.
actually happening.
Yep.
And I do wanna also say, as this fund balance grows, it's not that we have $57 million to spend. All of our policies for rainy day fund and strategic fund are all based on percentages of expenditures. So as our expenditures go up, those buckets of money that we have set aside will also go up. And you'll see that snapshot, again, once we get through the audit and we present the financial statements, it's in a footnote in the financial statements exactly how much we've set aside and what that breakout looks like for that fund balance.
Okay, so then to that, we are roughly, I think before we adopted our fund balance policies would be at 25%.
25 and then 5.
And then 5%, so we were at like 40-ish or something some time ago.
So,
Yeah.
I believe you,
And then we went up from where we were.
yes.
Okay.
But those percentages, again, as I said, they're based on expenditures.
Right.
So if our expenditures have gone up 10%, then 10% of those set asides, those are gonna have to go up 10% as well.
Right, so it's just a snapshot in time.
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
that money will go out for those increases.
Yes, it'll be set aside.
Right,
You'll see it as assigned fund balance
okay,
in the financial statements.
okay, thanks.
I wouldn't think to donate suitcases
Anybody
to
else?
Children's Village, it's a good idea.
Seeing nobody else with any questions or comments, let's prompt the vote on item 8A.
8 of them, which may leave, they can get a new suitcase.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Next, we have item 8B, the amendments to the fiscal year 2024 apportionment of local tax rates.
I will
Make a
create
motion.
the space for you guys.
We all go to school millage.
I'm hearing Hartman.
Somebody wanna move this? Commissioner Rahman, supported by Commissioner Cavell. Okay. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Commissioner Markham. Rest of the Commissioners, Finance Committee, I want to thank you for giving us this time this morning. I come before you with the first item of the agenda. As you remember, I was here back on October 16th with the first apportionment report, and I had indicated I'd be back. And so I came back on November 13th with the L4029 and updated you with some of the tax rates from the last election regarding Parks and Rec changes to the millage rate in the West Bloomfield Township millage rate from the election, and just said I'd be back again with the updated apportionment rate report, and that's what I'm here before with you. Updated the report. This is a finalized report, and with your affirmation, we'll update it and get it out to the public. And those are the rates that we're gonna be updating, just the ones that have changed. We've made all those edits and changes because of those changes. They're before you just like they were in the prior. I stand ready to answer any questions. I do want to let you know that I do have two of my staff with me. I have Chief Tracy Jones, who heads our office support, with Oakland County Equalization, has been with the county for many years, as well as Shannon Moore, who was and had standards and is very significantly instrumental in putting together this enforcement report. Certainly, they do the heavy lifting for all of this, not me. I just kind of look, I try to look good, but I don't. But they really do the heavy lifting here. So I owe a lot of gratitude to them and their teams for doing this work. So we all stand ready to answer any questions you have for us today.
Okay, thank you. I'll open it up to the committee. Anybody have any questions? Commissioner Hoffman?
I've said this before, the Parks and Rec millage, I thought throughout the campaign it was only an 85% increase, but since I realize now they overrode Headley, the tax went up 90%, and nobody told the public that, or few people did.
Yeah, they both up by 70%.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments or questions? All right, let's prompt the vote, please.
It wasn't gonna be an increase and it is. I'm big picture of this. It's Sheena.
You have 7 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries.
So went from.
Thanks for coming in this morning.
Went from.
Next up, we have item 8C. Deletion of 7 part-time vacant positions and creation of 1 full-time equalization assessing technician senior position. I didn't realize you guys had the next item. Moved by Commissioner Wiper, supported by Commissioner Cabell. All right.
Well, this will be the last time I'll see you this year, so I'm gonna wish you, on behalf of Oakland County Equalization, I want to wish you all a happy and safe holiday season, and thank you for a great another year serving you here at Oakland County. It's been a real pleasure. I want to thank you for all your support at Oakland County Equalization. One of the things that I was asked to do, two of the main objectives I was asked to do was try to increase morale and provide better serving to the staff at Equalization. As the officer there, I tried to do that to the best of my abilities. But also to kind of look and see where we could do reorganization and create better efficiencies there with the staff we had. And that leads me to the next agenda item. One of the things we looked at was any areas that were vacant where we could make improvements upon, whether they were filling positions or seeing if they were underserved. And one of the things we looked at were these part-time positions. These are part-time positions that we didn't fill because they are really temporary positions where people would come in, serve a small amount of time, and then by the time you train them, they would be replaced and people would move on. And it takes a long time to get somebody to go in and learn assessing. It takes, sometimes 6 months to a year to get somebody to learn, and then they would move on, like these business assistants, people that only serve for 3 months, which are 4 of the positions. So what I'm proposing is, instead of trying to bring somebody in for a short amount of time where they would leave, and that's why they've been vacant for a long time, and they show up as vacant for a long time, is because they're just not real necessary functions of the positions. I'm proposing we delete them and create a full-time position and Ms. Jones's office support role, so we could have one functional full-time technician position that can actually pick up a lot more of the responsibilities we need done rather than these part-time positions. And that would do a lot of service for us to have that full-time position.
Okay.
And I stand ready to answer any questions anybody would have, as well as Ms. Jones, who runs that department.
Okay, I'll open it up to the commissioners. Commissioner Hoffman.
I support what you're doing, and I think this will probably help a little. Are there any other full-time positions that we have not staffed in equalization or that we need to?
We
down people?
this will, we are totally occupied with the positions. We don't have any other vacant positions. These were the other vacant positions. Right now, we're still looking at the reorganization process. During the budget period, what I had indicated is we are looking at technology right now. And we're gonna see if there's any technology we can do first to see if there's efficiencies that we can create with new technology because we're very deficient in technology. We're right now implementing tablets that most of the counties throughout Michigan use, and so do assessors like Novi uses. So we're right now purchasing and getting our staff educated on those. That'll hopefully increase efficiencies. And then we'll look and see what staffing needs to be improved upon.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Is this a flat wash or what is this?
Okay,
How
let's
much
prompt
money
the
is
vote,
this? How much
please.
money is this? Okay. How much money is it?
7 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay,
Full timers are taking.
motion carries.
But where's the budget
Um,
thing?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have item 8D, the Oakland County Energy Study.
This wasn't long to be
Take a
reconsidered.
motion.
You gotta-
Moved by Commissioner Cavell, supported by Commissioner Powell.
No, you can. You can. Get my school board member, because it was an increase, and they
I think
they campaigned it was an increase. All right, so I'm hitting her up right now, oh.
That sweater. She's got, I really want that sweater.
Sweater.
Yeah.
That is
You have to leave it. You cannot take it with you. That's fine, that's sustainable, right?
Yeah, yeah. She'll need that though, it's
All right.
water, Maine.
Well, good morning. Good afternoon now. Good afternoon.
Would you like me to go through what we did previously? Okay.
We have new members here that.
Perfect. So what you have in front of you is a proposal to utilize a contractor for an energy study to understand all of our infrastructure related to energy, electricity, and think about future efficiencies. There are several different grant opportunities that we've identified to support this program. We have EECBG, which is a formula-based fund through federal DOE, Department of Energy, and that is $434,000, 190. Okay, I got that number right. We have $100,000 from a community energy management grant that was awarded through EGLE that was in front of this body last month. And then we have $160,000 from the Office of Sustainability, a combination between existing budget and carry forward budget, since this was supposed to happen last fiscal year. And we also have one of the reasons behind the energy study, sorry, I'm just trying to remember what I said last time, and one of the reasons for the energy study is to identify ways that we can improve upon our infrastructure, specifically the energy feeders that come into our campus, and understanding the capacity for future efficiencies, EV infrastructure, and changing some of the uses and services that we have here on campus in coordination with the move to Pontiac. I don't know if there's other things we want to add. This has been a joint venture between sustainability and facilities. We've been working really closely on that to ensure that we make our campus more sustainable. There is a consideration for the steam plant decommissioning to understand more about how that would impact our facilities that are still connected to the steam plant in an effort to be more sustainable, thinking about maybe even natural gas systems or a dual fuel system for future electrification. So really a comprehensive study to understand our facilities.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Woodward.
And the DOE's grant, Yes. it's a formula-based grant similar to like CDBG. These are Yes. energy efficiency, community development block grants that Yes, thank you, yes. we're on track to receive whenever we receive. Get the contract. Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Hoffman.
Thank you. I understand at the previous economic committee meeting, there was a motion to reconsider. I don't think that's legal under Robert's Rule of Order, so I think what we're doing here is kind of a moot point because that failed at the other meeting. And I think I'd like the staff or somebody to rule on this, or Mike Keys or somebody who,
Well, Madam Chair, staff doesn't rule on this, the chair will make a
Well-
ruling and then we can vote to sustain or overturn the ruling of the chair. This issue is before us as an item that the finance chair placed on the agenda, which the finance chair has the authority to place items on the agenda.
that's
And I
fine.
did take my counsel from Mike Keys,
Well, there
who
he
was
is.
standing there with a Robert's Rules book in his hand, so. he's
I'm
evidently
questioning-
sat down, but
I'm questioning whether you can make a motion to reconsider, and I've always thought that was not.
Yeah, we could definitely look back at what happened in ED&I, but what we are looking at today is a department recommendation on finance. You'll notice that we haven't carried over any of the ED&I voting or information. Commissioner Markham is the chair of the committee, has, according to our board rules, has the ability to add the item directly to the agenda. And so with our adoption of the agenda and it being under department recommendations, the motion to
Does not
reconsider
carry
anything like
forward.
that wouldn't conflict with considering it here now.
Well, does that impact what we're trying to do here overall if one
No,
committee-
our standing committees just give a recommendation to the board, and so it doesn't preclude it to go to finance or the full board,
Okay.
whether the standing committee votes to deny it or to recommend it.
And Commissioner Spiz and I have talked about this already.
Oh, you have?
Yes.
But can you make a motion to reconsider, separate from this? I respect the position of the chair.
Yeah, cause now it's.
Right, that's something you and I, maybe we could talk after
Yeah,
the meeting with the Roberts rules to
Yeah.
Well, I was just
I would
curious,
like to too,
'cause-
cause I've never heard of that
All right,
in 22
thank you.
years. That's what I said, I'd never had that happen in 22 years.
excuse me, I'm eating my lunch, sorry. Okay, so commissioners, does anybody else have anything they wanna add? Commissioner Cavell?
Well, just real quick, looking at the math, you figured out how to find $694,000 for this project that costs $1 million. So, that is like very cool of you to do that, to find all this extra money from all these state and federal grants and carry forward from your budget. Sounds like great leverage. Good job. It's unfortunate you have to do all that, cause not everyone has to do that, but I appreciate you for doing that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, if there's no other comments or questions, let's prompt the vote on item 8D. Commissioner Powell?
One more thing, I just wanted to say, I was there for a brief moment yesterday at the sustainability event you had yesterday. And thank you as always, but I was there for a very short minute, but of course it was all organized and everybody seemed like they were very engaged, so, thank you.
Good feedback. Sorry I had to miss it, I wanted to
No,
be there too.
I got there late.
Okay,
We had 5 days.
We had committee.
5 yeas, 3 nays, motion carries.
Thank you.
So thank you. All right, next up, we have our recommendations from Economic Development and Infrastructure Committee. Item 9A is grant acceptance from the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency for the FY 2025 County Veterans Service Fund Grant. Moved by Commissioner Hoffman, supported by Commissioner Rahman.
Thank you. Garth Wooten from Oakland County Veteran Services Division Manager. Tyrone Jordan, the grant administrator. And this is a request to accept the grant from the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency for the County Veterans Service Fund for fiscal year 25 in the amount of $530,000, $893. Fiscal year 24 grant was $505,019, so it's a substantial increase from last fiscal year. We're planning on utilizing the funds to support resource fairs in the amount of $364,500, marketing in the amount of $116,393, and transportation in the amount of $50,000. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Powell?
Are we clear that this marketing gonna stay in your department and it's not gonna be moved? like other marketing money that
Yes.
was
Yes.
moved before?
Yes.
So you all will be able to have liberty to do your own marketing, make your own decisions?
We are gonna administer the marketing and we have a plan and we work with, luckily, we've been able to work with economic development, some of the marketing people there, so we are going to be doing it ourselves.
Good statement, but I'm just making sure, you know, I've been expressed of some concerns of things in their department, so I'm happy that you all are getting the liberty to do what you want to do for Veterans Department. Thank you.
Commissioner Woodward.
I mean, two things on the marketing piece. I mean, I hope we're also working with our Office of Public Communication and whatever
Yes.
tools and resources they have there. Okay. That's why we created them.
We try to make sure we use different mediums so that we can reach all veterans, not just young veterans, not just older veterans. We use direct marketing, we do social media, we do direct mailings, we do newspaper ads, radio ads. So we try to make sure it's diverse enough that we're reaching as many veterans as possible.
And in terms of the amount, and forgive me, I don't remember what's funding the state, like the total amount that's going into this, the state's Veterans Trust Fund, that's, I think it's dispersed this way. Are we expecting it to kind of grow at the same pace, 505, 530, and up? Or is this a reallocation of some communities that might say, you know what, we don't have the capacity to use it?
Right, the way it's allocated is it's $4.2 million from this legislature and they, it depends on how many counties apply.
Okay.
So there's a flat rate of $50,000 for any county that applies, and then after, whatever's left over after that
Okay.
is allocated based on the number of veterans that live in that county. So, if, I think this year 67 applied, so if all 83 applied, we would not get much money, but luckily there's counties that don't apply for this for whatever reason.
Got it.
And actually, we received the second largest amount in the state. Wayne County was first, we were second. And to your question about public communication, we do have a liaison with Department of Communications, and they are actually piggybacking on our marketing, say social media and online streaming, and so they are actually following up with that too.
Good. Anybody else? Let's prompt the vote, please.
You have 8 Ps, you're on the list.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 9B is the central garage roof replacement. Need a motion? Commissioner Hoffman, supported by Commissioner Cabell.
Hello. I'm Jason Warner with Planning and Engineering with Facilities, Division Manager. Today, bringing in front of you the central garage roof replacement. The roof is 31,500 square feet. The existing roof was installed in 1993. The roof will have a 30-year warranty. Royal Roofing is the best qualified bidder. Project cost is $656,829. Construction is will be scheduled for the spring. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Mine already. Okay, anybody have any questions? Seeing none, let's prompt the vote, please.
Seems like we're not asking what we ask them in econ. You know,
Yeah,
because it's a big expense and there's no question.
Motion carries.
They just give it
Thank
econ.
you. All right, next we have item 10. Legislative Affairs and Government Operations Committee recommendations. Item 10A is the FY 2025, 26, 27, and 28 collective bargaining agreement for employees represented by the UAW Local 889, representing various non-supervisory and supervisory employees within the 6th Judicial Circuit Court and Probate Court. Moved by Commissioner Wiper, supported by Commissioner Powell.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Thank you for your time today. My name is Dan Klempner. I'm our Chief of Labor Relations, Employee Relations.
Cheryl Johnson, Deputy CFO. Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself earlier.
Thank you for your time today. We're before you here today to discuss the contract, the UAW agreement, collective bargaining agreement between courts and the county. And you may be thinking to yourself, well, didn't we just approve a contract for the UAW in October? You are correct. This is not deja vu. This contract is with the court in front of the court employees, and by statute, that is a separate employer from the county. So I know that it may seem tedious, but we do have to have two separate collective bargaining agreements, both for county rank and file employees and court folks. Front of the court folds into that, the court is the employer. This particular contract has no fiscal impact, or rather it was approved in October. The fiscal ramifications for this, no, it was not. I'll let you speak to that then.
So in October, what we did is I put together the new sheet that you guys all saw that had the breakdown. It wasn't your typical like 4-page Schedule A. It was a breakdown by fund, by year of all of the additional costs for the UAW contract. What I did is all of the people that were in those contracts at that time were costed out in that sheet. Since that time, we've had additional people join the union, and that's what these are. And so, as we've discussed, I used the same budget document that we used to put the 25 through 27 budget together. And so when I looked at those, I saw the meeting yesterday. I had a brief conversation with April on the phone. I was mistaken when I said they were in those numbers. They were not. Once I looked at them after the fact, I realized that. So I tried to do them this morning, and I don't have all the documentation that I need to put those costs together. So I'm working with HR. I'm getting a list of those employees because previously they were non-union employees. So I don't have a list of them to put the costs together. What you will see is very similar to what I've had before. What I brought in October, it was a 2-page, 3-page document. It had the summary on the front that was by fund. These will all reflect general fund, but it will reflect each year and the impact of all the costs. And my goal is to try and get that completed by the end of this week. So I apologize that you do not have the financial data in front of you to show the impact, but you will have it before it goes to the board. And it's just in case, I don't know if it's the one that looked like this. It's not gonna look like the Schedule A. Some of the things that we're trying to do with the budget is to help things look a little cleaner, so you guys can look at 1 page and not 10 pages of all these different Schedule A documents. So this was in the October 23rd. I think it was the 23rd board meeting where this attachment was the costing by fund summary was added, and it may have been added to this item, but I'm not sure. But I do not, as I sit before you, do not have the cost for those additional, it's 150 employees?
Approximately 100 employees.
Okay, so that I will put together and give to you all as soon as I can.
And then without regard to the financial aspect of it, I'm happy to answer any questions with respect to the substantive questions about the contract, if there are any.
And just to kind of just piggyback on that, what we did bring in October was 775 employees. So it's not gonna be that same level of impact that you saw in October. That was the bulk of the impact for the UAW increases and benefit changes.
Commissioner White.
I mean, it's the exact same,
The contract.
The language.
contract, right?
They're just bringing
Yes.
less people.
I mean, it's,
And that-
Oh, sorry,
Go ahead.
that's your area.
So financially, no, they are different, but also the terms in the agreement, and it's really it's very de minimis. For example, the contract with the rank and file Oakland County employees says Oakland County is the employer, the court one inserts the Sixth Circuit Court as the
okay.
employer. So I mean, they're very minimal changes, so you're right, it does
And
look.
the funding.
The
I think you said.
percentages,
The percentage.
the percentages, the
3%, the
one
5%,
time,
the-
yeah,
That's
that's
the
all
same.
the same.
One time,
Exactly.
That's.
was that fixed in there then a couple months ago? Created a fix for employees with
And
broken
that's what you're
service, was
asking,
that in there
right?
before?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Yes, that's in the one that was in October, it is also in this one, yes.
That's what you.
For broken service.
Correct, yeah, so
percentage,
people
what you're
leave and
saying.
come back, yes.
Anybody
No,
else?
it's not, it's okay.
Commissioner Cabell.
I just wanna highlight that if I read this right, in 2028, UAW member employees, part of this will have a 12-3 retirement.
For retirement.
Yeah, that's great.
It goes from 9-3 to 12-3.
Yeah. Something I think the deputies already have.
It's 15.5 at U of M.
Anybody else? Okay, let's prompt the vote.
It's 15.5 at U of M. It's a good place to work. No, Mrs. Barton.
It was. Okay, motion
My
carries.
environment is like-
Next
and I
then
look at
is a
comparison.
similar item, 10B.
All you
FY
gray-haired folks talking
2025,
about 15.5
26, 27, and 28
Long time ago.
supplemental agreements
This is the
for
first job I
employees
had.
represented. Hey, guys. You're confusing me.
Well, still us.
Supplemental agreements for employees represented by the United Auto Workers representing various supervisory and non-supervisory employees within the county.
And thank you for your attention again, this.
I need a motion though
Oh, I'm
first.
sorry.
That's
Oh, here.
Commissioner Cavell, followed by Commissioner Long.
There you go. Now you can speak.
All right. Thank you again for your time. So this one has to do with supplemental agreements that are additional to the primary agreements. And supplements serve one of two purposes. They are either meant to organize a group or a department or to address various idiosyncrasies within a department that shouldn't really be folded into the main agreement. And what I mean by that is, as an example, we have a supplemental agreement for corporation counsel that speaks essentially just to bar dues. There's no other UAW employee that needs bar dues, so what's the sense in putting that in the main agreement? So that's an example for corporation counsel. We have others that have uniform allowances that perhaps don't fit into the main agreement that are idiosyncratic again. But without going through each one, I'm happy to answer any questions, but before I do that, if you wanna speak to the fiscal impact, which will be de minimis, but again, that is not before you.
employees,
Um,
supervisors?
No.
Who is this?
this is,
Fiscal?
some are fiscal, so it's facilities, corporation counsel. I can check to see all of them, but yes, these are non-core.
Okay, so the cost for item B was included in that schedule that you got in October. Because they were already part of the union, so they were in my schedule, they're ones that I updated and did the calculations for. So when I do the schedule, this week for the additional employees, it's only gonna be for item, I don't know if it's still 10A.
Yeah.
And not for 10B,
Oh,
cause
it's not for
the
B.
fiscal impact of 10B was already presented in October
Okay.
with the rest of the contracts. These are just the supplemental one-offs, as Dan said, very de minimis, like, you know, bar dues for corp counsel, some of the uniform increases for equalization, things like that that specific groups have.
A tool allowance for
Yeah.
a handful of mechanics.
Yep.
Okay.
So those costs were in the original
They're already in
document.
there.
Yes.
And the A is not. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Cavell.
The sheriff's office has a uniform allowance for 4 summer and 4 winter uniforms. But it says uniforms will be replaced as needed. But when we went through the whole thing with the law enforcement contracts the last couple weeks, I thought it was.
This is different.
Okay.
The sheriff's contracts are different, so they have a deputy and a command, so that's a different, this is just the UAW folks, so.
Okay.
If an equalization person comes to your door, we want them to be identified as an equalization person, so they have a jacket that says Oakland County Equalization, those types of uniforms.
But just so you're, for awareness, the UAW only represents civilian employees within the sheriff's office. So that they are sheriff's employees, but they're not sworn law enforcement, so
That's
they-
different.
yeah.
Just a caveat on your words. Every cop is a civilian because they're our neighbors, they're not military.
That's fair.
Yep, but understood, okay.
Anybody else? Let's prompt the vote, please.
They like saying answers.
just wanted to make sure we all.
So you're right.
I just
Oh.
wanna make sure. I appreciate it.
That's why I
Thank
said it,
you.
Margaret.
Yes.
Yeas, 0 nays.
Okay. And the third one is item 10C, interlocal agreements between Oakland County Board of Commissioners and Oakland County Public Authorities for administrative support services.
Oh, this is our.
Thank you.
Moved by Commissioner Hoffman, supported by Commissioner Woodward.
Afternoon, Commissioners. So we have a couple of public bodies, the Art Authority for Oakland County and the Zoo Authority for Oakland County that this board appoints people to, and the executive as well. And we offer them services from our staff to support them in running their meetings, which would require like a committee coordinator type of role. And so this is an agreement with that public body to offer those services and charge them rates for for them to run their meetings.
I've never been.
Commissioner Woodward.
I there's an amendment, I'd like to move the amendment,
Is this your amendment, Dave?
seconded for discussion.
Sure, second.
So,
Moved by Woodward, seconded by Cavell on the amendment.
and let me, speak to it. So when this was in Lago, I think there was some conversation, I think also a little bit of confusion. In committee, coming off the patrol contracts, like the decision like, well, we should add a CPI plus 6 component to this agreement. I think one, be very careful. It's an apples to orange comparison, because these are our staff that's on, like, our staff is here anyway. So it's not like we're hiring new staff and picking up additional costs that we aren't already covering completely. The rate that, as I understand, that staff over the last few years had set was, and worked with fiscal back then to establish a rate, is like the highest rate for the highest rate for the person who could do this job on our team. And set a rate, started out, I think originally $50, but it was raised a couple dollars each, about 3% each year to increase with inflation. The concern with the amendment that was adopted in Lago, which is this amendment basically strikes that amendment, is that one, when we were talking about CPI plus 6 with, the patrol contracts, it is not just the salary differential, it's all, it's vehicles, it's equipment, it's liability insurance, all the types of things that's part of those patrol contracts, which clearly our staff doesn't have those concerns. And this will put us on a trajectory of bringing in more than what, our true cost for it. And so I think that's a dangerous path for us to go down, because we can't bring in more.
With the CPI is a danger, that one,
The CPI plus 6, and so like my understanding, what was the increases set in there, is it 3% that?
Well, roughly 3%. We keep it at an even number because we don't want to get into cents and everything like that with the rates that are within the contracts and everything. So it's,
It's around down, right. So those, for the 5 years, the proposed would be, I have them in front of me, wait, I can get them.
I think it starts off with $56 per hour for 25, and then just increases at a rate it's close to 3%, which is like equivalent to $2 each and every year. And we preliminary had discussions with the authority chairs, and they seem to be in agreement with that. But obviously, it needs to go to each of the authorities to get approval as well.
Question on the amendment.
Commissioner Long.
I think this is to do with the amendment, I'm hoping it is. So for the $56, I think that's what you said, the one, is that, so that's billed to the art authority and it comes out of the millage money? Is that how it works?
Correct, they have a budget that they work with based upon the millage revenue that they bring in. And we, obviously how they work with that.
Yeah,
And I've just never thought of this, you know,
Yeah.
like our staff,
So we've had an agreement the last few years.
Okay.
Right, so this is continuing for the next 5.
Okay.
The authority has a budget. Most of the money goes to the institutions, but they also have a budget because they're required by law to do an audit on an annual basis. And there might be legal expenses and other types of stuff for negotiating the service agreement, all those types of things. And so it's roughly $10,000 a year. And so that money comes out.
out of
They
there.
plan to expend dollars out of that budget too.
And then just so I know, these meetings are always held here and then you help them, or do you have to travel?
Sometimes the zoo will have that at the zoo,
Okay,
but the majority of them, yes,
Are held
here are
here.
in this room actually.
okay.
Correct.
I just wanted to know, I mean, I gotta say, I've never been to one, I might better join one time, you know, but,
They go
okay.
about an hour and.
Okay.
you know, obviously
I
we
thought
try
they
to
were here, I
schedule
just wanted
them
to
around
verify you're
our
not,
own meetings
once
as
in a
well.
while you have to travel to the zoo or if the
Once in a
art
while.
institution had some special meeting there, you'd go there and help them if you had to. Okay, thank you.
So again, just like speaking specific to the amendment, it is, I mean, kind of like striking out language that was added to be brought back to frankly, what staff had prepared. Because frankly, if we go higher, I mean, I think we're at risk of collecting too much money for the cost associated. Because again, I understand that, I mean, the CPI 6, because we came off that conversation before, but that CPI 6 pays for increased costs that are much more, it's not just salary and benefit, it's all the cost of the service of doing that.
Like, just like cars, radios, everything.
Makes sense. All right, anybody else have anything they wanna add? So
We're
we're
in the
voting
amendment
on the
now.
amendment.
Yeah.
All right, let's prompt the vote.
This is just reimbursement, so this is good, fine. Just didn't know how it worked, came out. I thought it came out of the village.
Okay, motion carries. And then we're gonna vote on the main
As amended, yeah.
motion as amended, item 10C.
Thank you. So Dave, you were thinking the other would have been too much money.
8 yeas, 0 nays.
All right, motion carries. Thank you, everybody. So now we move into item 11, public health and safety recommendations. Item 11A is grant acceptance from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the FY 2024 Community Development Block Grant. Moved by Commissioner Weipert, supported by Commissioner Cavell. And we have, looks like we have Khadija up there.
Yes, good afternoon, commissioners. Thank you so much. I would like to request acceptance for the program year 2024 Community Development Block Grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the amount of $3,645,249. We estimate our home improvement revolving loan funds to be around $1 million for this year. We would further like to recognize the receipt of our revolving loan fund in the total amount from last year of $826,151. The funding for the Community Development Block Grant will support 24 positions. This is not a change. This is consistent with prior years. And it will also continue to support the 52 communities that fall under the CDBG program as well. Thank you.
All right, I'll open it up to the commission. Anybody have any questions or comments? Commissioner Hoffman.
Money that goes to local municipalities like Waterford, is that separate from this, or do we, that's what I thought, okay.
There are,
Commissioner
so I
Woodward
think
is
there
answering
are
the question.
4 or 5 communities, Khadijah, right, that manage their own CDBG funds?
Okay,
And so.
that's what I thought.
That is correct. Yes.
You were supervisor one day.
Can you name those off the top of your head?
Pontiac's doing it.
Yeah, let me try and make sure I hit them all. Royal Oak, Southfield, now Pontiac, starting this year, Waterford, and I do feel like I'm forgetting, Farmington Hills.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, any other comments, questions? Let's prompt the vote, please.
With 8 yeas, 0 nays.
All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item 12B, memorandum of understanding with the Board of Commissioners to manage American Rescue Plan Act funds. Moved by Commissioner Weipert, supported by Commissioner Rahman.
Did we skip?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I skipped a whole thing. I'm sorry, 11B. Interlocal agreement with the Oakland County Health Network for the Behavioral Threat Assessment Grant Program. Commissioner Rahman, Commissioner Cavell. I apologize. Keeping you straight.
You know?
Now, I can't believe that dog is a behavioral threat. Pretty darn cute.
neutralize the threat.
Yes, really cute, really cute.
I know, they're cute, aren't they?
Uh-huh. All right,
Okay, good morning. So I'm Kay up here, Sheriff Fiscal Officer. I have Mike Crum from Emergency Management, Captain Todd Hill and Callie, and Major Larry Perry. So this is a new program, a new grant funding in the amount of $320,755. It's an interlocal agreement with OCHN for behavioral threat assessment. The funding will create positions in the Sheriff's Office and Emergency Management. And then I have all the experts here to answer questions if you have any specifically on the program.
okay. Commissioner Cavell.
Hey, I'm seeing that you're having a position sunset after 1 year. What are your plans for that? And a part-time sunset in 2 years. So how does that work with the staffing?
Well, they go away, obviously the funding goes away, but we would hope to get continued funding based on results of the program, so.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, well, let's prompt the vote then. Did you have to bring the dog back to finance on a regular basis?
Will do.
Yeah, 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, now we'll go into item 12, the county executive recommendations. Item 12A, the appropriation of American Rescue Plan Act local fiscal recovery funding to fund base payroll costs. Moved by Commissioner Weipert, supported by Commissioner Woodward.
Good afternoon, commissioners.
Yeah.
I didn't bring my dogs. They're not anywhere near as well behaved as the sheriff's dog was. So thanks for giving us the opportunity to talk about this resolution today. Just to give you a refresher, I don't think anybody really needs it, but I'm gonna take a second to do it anyway, if that's all right. All of the $244 million that we received from the federal government was appropriated by the Board of Commissioners. We have two deadlines. We have the obligation deadline, the end of this year, and the expenditure deadline, which is the end of 2026. So appropriations themselves do not meet obligation requirements. So obligation requirement is a contract and an interlocal agreement, an interagency memorandum of understanding, of which you're considering a few following this. So in the early summer, Guidehouse, Fiscal, or the team from Fiscal, Pierce Monroe Associates met with all of our project managers to check in on the status of their projects. Are they gonna meet the obligation deadlines, meet the expenditure deadlines? They identified a few that needed follow-up in September, which they did. And the result of all those conversations is that they identified about $2.5 million that need to be obligated by the end of this year. It's only 1% of the total amount of money that this board appropriated working with the administration, which I think is terrific. So really, these are funds that had been appropriated for a purpose, and the projects have, been ongoing, and they've discovered that they're not gonna spend all of that money, so we have an opportunity to reobligate them. So the resolution that you're considering today would fund base payroll costs in the health department, I think, is that right, Cheryl? Which is an appropriate and allowable use of American Rescue Plan Act funds.
Through December.
Yep, through December, that's right. So it would fund base payroll costs and then shift an equivalent amount of general fund dollars that would have been used for payroll to fund balance, where then the board can work with the administration on determining the best way to spend that money, in 2025. So that's the proposal on the table here for you to consider. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Everybody understand?
Yeah.
Commissioner Weipert?
So we found $2.5 million that was not used, right? And we're just gonna use it for something allowed.
That's right.
Base salaries in the health department.
That's right.
I'm gonna take that, what we budgeted that, and pull it in general.
Park it in the general fund, and then we can decide what to do with that without the same kind of restrictions that, right, you now have more flexibility when it's general fund dollars, and we don't have the same deadlines, so, you know, there's a little bit more flexibility for the, for.
2 months after passing the budget, huh? That's.
What's that?
That kind of helps pass, 2 months after passing that budget.
So,
Commissioner Woodward.
I mean, I guess I would just say that, I mean, 250 million, everyone here has been involved.
Right, 247.
Not only the number of program, 245.
47.
Oh, you're talking
I'm
total.
talking about the total amount of money, I mean, like, say, what brings us here is that we,
correct that.
all the programs, all the things that we did and we distributed, that I would say we're pretty much on the mark on what we thought things were gonna cost. They came in, some of these things that are on this list are just like, the demand wasn't as big as we originally thought or whatever. And reimbursement for eligible payroll costs is an allowance. A lot, in my experience, most counties use that as a vehicle for spending their ARPA. We pushed our ARPA dollars out into the community. They have instant maximum impact to improve people's lives, and so, I mean, $2.5 million coming back in. I would imagine first quarter of next year, this will be a priority to see how we want to spend those dollars. But this checks the box, 2006 allocated, and well, with the other things, everything else on course to be spent.
yeah, that's right, the combination of this plus the memorandums of understanding that you'll talk about here in just a minute will fulfill all of our obligation requirements with the US Department of Treasury. We won't have to give anything back, and then we just gotta spend it by the end of 2026, but you know, we are continue to meet with project managers. People are on track to spend that money, we don't have any concerns about that, we also have 2 years to make adjustments if we need to, so.
2026, I think.
So this 2.5 million that you're putting back, is it going into a separate line item, so we know that's where that money is, or and then do we have to spend it in ways that we had to spend the ARPA money, or is it really ours to do with what we want?
The way that we're gonna use it for revenue loss, it's basically ours to do with what we want. I can assign it, carve it out separately in our assignment in the financial statements if that is the direction of the board.
Maybe, someone's gonna ask what happened.
What do you think?
Maybe, I think so too, 'cause someone's gonna say what happened to it.
Let's do that.
Oh, don't worry.
It doesn't preclude us
You know,
from spending
I mean,
it.
not now,
No,
in the
right now.
future, someone could say, where is that 2 point?
You're creating general fund dollars now that can be used for any.
Yeah, I
This
know.
number's already on a whiteboard.
I wanna caveat that, as long as we're not gonna like $50 it to death,
Right.
because then that becomes a nightmare for me and my staff to keep track of taking it out of that assigned fund balance. I don't envision that happening, I envision, you know, a couple of
Huge
chunks
amounts,
coming
right.
out, and then we can spell that out and where we put it when we do the resolutions for those particular
That's what I
projects.
think too.
I envision a macro solution.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I
do too.
I don't wanna set up something that we don't really need, but
Right.
couple $1 million, it'd be nice to know where that
Exactly.
is sitting.
Yeah, and we can do that, we can certainly do that. Like I said, I don't think it's gonna be anything we're gonna be keeping track of, you probably won't even see it in, you know, the financial statements next year. Obviously, you're not gonna see it in this year's financial statements, cause we're already in 25. So it won't be a problem setting it aside, and then probably by the time we get to the end of 25, it will probably be already allocated for something else.
Right.
I heard Commissioner Woodward say it's on a whiteboard already, so.
That doesn't
Okay.
surprise me.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments or concerns about this one? Let's go ahead and prompt the vote.
You have 7 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay. Item 12B, memorandum of understanding with the Board of Commissioners to manage American Rescue Plan Act funds.
Chair, can I make a request? Maybe we do B through E together, cause they're all MOUs and they can, if everyone's cool with that, and of course you, Chair.
I don't know.
I don't have a problem with
I
it.
don't, but they're kind of I mean, they're each individual.
We talk about it,
Explain
but
'em
vote
all.
them all, yeah.
Yeah.
Put them all out at once.
I agree.
Penny does that at PHS a lot.
Yeah.
I do it sometimes. I talk to my staff.
Yes, certainly we can have a accept a motion for 12B through E,
And then they can
and then
just
you
go
still
through
have the
each one
opportunity
quick.
to speak
To
on each
talk
of
about
them.
any of them.
Yeah, and
Okay.
then they can go through each of them quick, so.
All right, I will take a motion.
They were saying
So
it too.
moved.
I was like,
Commissioner Hoffman, supported by Commissioner White.
okay, if you will.
On items B through E. Okay.
B, start kind of going over.
All right, so we can get into each one of these individually as you want, but just as a reminder, right, these memorandum of understanding is our way of fulfilling the obligation requirement of the U.S. Department of Treasury for dollars that are not currently under contract. And if they're specific about what they intend to be used for, that satisfies the obligation requirement. So we have 4 things that we have here.
I mean, that's the concept, right? You guys went and checked with Guidehouse and checked with the rules and treasury regulations.
Is it going in
They
general
said if
fund?
we do a MOU
Yes, it's going in general
and
fund.
it counts as the 26th.
No, these are going in.
That's right. Yeah, it meets our obligation to obligate the money by the end of 2024 for these projects. So I'll use the senior centers one as an example. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Oh, well, you might have answered it, but so, just so I'm clear, how the one was going in, A was going in general fund, are these going into then this money's going into Board of Commissioners, these 4 workforce development, or are they going in general fund?
This is not related, so this is
That's
not
different.
related to that 2.5 million
Okay.
that you just did.
Okay,
Right,
this is
these are funds that are still ARPA dollars that we
Okay.
intend to spend for the purpose that you appropriated them in the
Into
first place. But they're not yet under contract, and so a memorandum of understanding allows us to fulfill the obligation
So
requirement.
you're gonna use them into these 4 different, okay.
Yeah, like
Thank you.
the senior center one is an example if you want it. I mean, Waterford, we've been talking to Waterford for quite some time. The school district owns the building. They've transferred the ownership to the township. We have to execute an agreement with the township. That all kind of came
Oh,
about in
that
the
comes
last
out of that.
month or two. So, we might not have, we're gonna try to get that done in December. In case we don't and we have to do it in January, this covers us and makes sure the money's obligated. So
Got it.
it's a kind of belt and suspenders approach to money that we know what we intend to do with it, and it's all spelled out in these memos.
Thank you, that made it much clearer for me, thank you.
And the rule's pretty clear that it can't be clawed back if we do this.
The rules are, yes, Treasury guidance is very clear. You've got a memo actually, I think, in your packet from Guidehouse that they provided to me about Treasury guidance, and this is a tool that other governments across the country are using.
Okay, good.
Commissioner Brahman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Are we discussing these individually at all, or I don't know if we're, what are?
Yeah, you
You can ask a question about any of them, I think.
So I guess my question is on 12B, and I know this is probably up Michael Andrews' alley here. I just wanted to get some clarification on what exactly it is we're doing here. So it's $500,000 that was originally allocated for COVID information, correct, for the seniors?
Yep.
Of which it looks like the vast majority of which is still unspent or unobligated, or I guess whatever you consider it, $377,000. So we're spending that $377,000 to pay vendors to design, print, and mail a series of COVID-19 communication pieces. Is that still the plan at this stage of kind of where we are with COVID? And so that's my first question. And then the second question is there a reason we're sourcing that out versus using something in-house to accomplish that same goal?
I think design and then also printing it and stuff like that, like similar to what you saw this summer with our own
Oh, that
specific
senior thing,
communication
yeah.
with the seniors.
Yeah.
Getting
Scammers.
that out into the public with printing and everything like that. As far as, to go back to your first question, I think we'd still be looking at communicating, pandemic related assistance in a sense of, guidance on, how seniors should be protected and stuff like that, through either the booster shot or things of that nature. But obviously, within the guidelines that we have as far as communicating things, we will be following those for any future publications that we submit. And I would even say that we have a good relationship with the DPC department as well, so that we can either build upon those communications with them or reiterate some of those communications as well. So I think to get back to your main question is, whatever we need to do to help assist seniors with knowledge in how to combat the continuing combat of the pandemic, but then also not straying too far from that with these COVID dollars based upon, what we wanna do as far as messaging.
And this is earmarked specifically for this purpose alone? I
Based
just
upon the
question
resolution.
whether it's, I mean, it's a lot of money at this stage, I mean, I know there's still
There's not.
worry and we still, have an obligation to educate folks.
Spend it through 26.
Understood, but I just feel like in terms of educating people on COVID at this point, I don't know.
So you
I
have,
guess we may all have some different thoughts on it.
yeah, you've got some flexibility there. My understanding is it was also to make sure you let seniors know, for example, senior centers are now open and here's stuff that goes on there because it's safe to do it. So it doesn't all have to be health related, right? I mean,
Like he said,
so
everyone
there are
was
different
doing it.
ways, I think, to do messaging that still fits the original intent of the board when you established this in the first place. And then on the, just so you know, I mean, I think the first one, or I don't know if there've been two of the mailings, but the Department of Public Communications did do the design, so we're happy to, that takes some cost off, we're happy to continue to do the design, we outsource the printing because we don't print it.
And I was gonna say, if we can use that money for the print, for the postage costs,
Yeah,
I'd rather
postage
do
print.
that than paying somebody else to design it.
Yeah.
And then we're just kinda,
Right, yeah, and that's, I mean, we don't quite know what we need yet at this point, that's why we're kinda asking for this memorandum of understanding so that we do know that if that money's out there, we will try to spend it to get information out into the public. I'd like to bring up the point that within your mailboxes is the latest Encore news piece that you just have, so you'll be getting a further digital communication on that, but similar to that type of messaging, I think is where we would probably have the baseline for it, and then going from there, how do we tailor that message to inform seniors that are out there?
Commissioner Long.
Okay, so just a little bit to piggyback, just remember, when you send anything out to seniors, please put I don't care if my number's on there, but put some other resource numbers on there too. Please, 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 even if I have to review it, not that I have to review it, but there is a little bit on this, but that last one, I didn't even know what to tell people to call, so I had to keep looking up and stuff, cause I got a lot of calls, so that was very effective, so it was good. But if you can put some numbers of some of the stuff we talk about on there too for them, I don't mind getting the calls, but they didn't know where to call, so.
And I think as you see with this,
That
next
had
one
some
that's up there
numbers.
is that we heard you loud and clear.
Yes, thank you.
And in working with the DPC and our staff, we are addressing that.
Yeah, thank you. I don't mind getting the calls, but I like the numbers on there too, if they wanna call directly, and then so I can say, hey, it's right here too. Thank you.
I'll say I like that publication. I think it's substantial enough, being a senior. I think it's substantial enough that people will look at it when it comes in their mail. And it's full of really good information. I like the branding right up in the top corner. They know it came from the county. I think we could do more of this kind of thing because the seniors, we all know
They like those.
everybody got more and more lonely and isolated in the pandemic, and not everybody is totally re-engaged. So the more that we can support the seniors with good, solid information, and like I said, it's substantial, it's like 8 pages, right? That tells the person who got it in the mail, maybe I should really look at this, rather than it's just going in recycle, right?
Yeah, and that publication is one that you fund through the Department of Public Communications for senior communications. So we've had, I think, 3 per year budgeted. Printing costs and mailing costs have gone up, so we're gonna have to scale that back a little bit if we're gonna stay within the $400,000 or so that we currently have budgeted for this. So we may do 2, we have to, the DPC is thinking through the best way to do that. We may come back to you and ask for more money during the budget process so we can do more communications, because I'm hearing you, Commissioner, but this is part of the DPC budget. We appreciate the fact that you give us the opportunity to do that work.
Well, this would be another item like Commissioner Spiz talked about in EDI. How do we measure success of this publication? Right? Have you thought that through? Do we have any means by which we do currently measure success and so on? So,
yeah.
Thoughts?
It's a great question. It's hard with a mailer. What I will say is they generate many calls, most of them positive, some of them, why am I on your list? I'm not a senior. So I've gotten a few of those here and there. So anyway.
You will
Good for
be
them,
soon.
good for them, they're young,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
Right, good for them, they're young, right?
Okay. Any other questions on these items? Going once? Commissioner Whiteford.
And John, you're doing $485,000 worth of stuff, and he's got $1.8 million. Right, that's. So you're
Yeah, similar. The Oakland 80 initiative set aside $485,000 for marketing and communications. We have recently executed our first trial, so you may have seen the billboards around town or seen the digital ads. These are copies of the mailers that were sent out to targeted communities across the county that have lower educational attainment rate. Brought some copies for everyone in case you'd like those. And then we've also done bus wraps. So we're testing those right now when individuals that are interested in navigator services or education or career navigation, we're asking them, where did you hear about it? And then tracking, did they see it on a bus wrap? Did they hear a digital commercial? Did they see the billboard? Did they get the mailer? And then our goal is over the course of the next 2 years through 2026 to invest those dollars in the tools that are the most successful.
Oh, good.
So we didn't want to enter into a contract by the end of this year with the marketing firm until we had tested multiple methods and determined which one was the best way to proceed.
Commissioner Long?
Well, I agree with Chairman Markman. I think the seniors really like that senior, the senior mailing way more than I thought they would. You know, like you think people don't look at mail, but I think some people just called me because they were lonely too, which I'm glad to talk to them.
The
You know,
senior population, it's
I
male.
do think, because it was questions like, you know, I mean, it was, but I talked to them, so they were like, oh, thanks for talking to me for 45 minutes, but I was suntanning at the same time, so it's really not. Remember how tan I was out on the pool suntanning, yeah, so it was delightful talking to them, yes, yeah.
We also wanted to make sure with the mailer that it went out after the election, so that it didn't get lost in all of the other mailers. So this has just gone out recently, and
Right.
again, coming up to that December 31st deadline was
They do like them though.
very difficult. So this MOU gives us the next 2 years to invest appropriately with our marketing and outreach campaigns.
They did like that.
And then the other
Same
one.
thing I did, I
IT's
think.
got $1.8 million on this, right?
Yeah, IT, you wanna
IT.
tell us about what you're doing? I mean, you all came to
last
the
but not
meeting, you
least.
might as well
There was
present,
video
right?
the whole time.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner.
So the 52nd District Court update, and Paul, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think this is video conferencing software for the courts.
The video hardware is being replaced.
Yeah, so that was getting long in the tooth, so we needed to do a life cycle upgrade on that. The hybrid conference rooms and laptops, I think, is mostly done. There's still some rooms, I think, that need some hardware, so that project's wrapping up. The Qualtrics, I think people are familiar with, so the surveying software to do the, I guess, constituent sentiment analysis, among other things, so we got payments on that. And then our service center incident management system, the system that we have is old, it is difficult to use, both from an IT and an end user perspective, so we had put an RFP out. I think actually we've gotten it back, I think on October 28th, so it's being scored. So we're looking to do a web-based upgrade to that, so hopefully that will improve customer service for the folks that use IT.
Okay, anybody have any questions? Commissioner White?
And not to be unfair to the department, but IT's always the biggest number, you know, we got $1.8 million, and $485,000, but, and I mean, cause it's the most complicated, most important.
Flashback.
I always feel bad that IT is so expensive, but you know,
But it goes across all aspects of the whole county,
It
so.
does, yes.
No, thank you.
Commissioner?
Flashback.
Anybody else?
Yeah, it's state. He's in California. Yeah, so I thought.
Going once, going twice. Okay, let's go ahead and prompt the vote on items 12B through E.
State somewhere.
They got 2 kids. My top or no?
Are you doing a roll call?
I'm facing just screen.
Sorry, that, and then saving time.
So did that cover all of them? Cause
Yes.
Yeah,
when it
I
came
think
up,
so.
it just said D.
Yeah. I got it.
You got all of them. Okay, all right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
appreciate it, Commissioners. Thank you.
Thanks for waiting.
Yeah, I know, we're late today, but.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye, everyone. Stay warm. It's freezing out today. I don't know if it looks as windy
Next
as it
up, we
was.
have our last public comment for anybody who wants to talk to us about anything. Is there anybody who wishes to address this committee at this time?
So just to reiterate, those will be sent out, the Encore newsletters will be sent out, or if they already haven't been in the mail, they should be getting into residents'
Oh, okay, so we know.
hands
Perfect.
by early next week. Some maybe even by the end of this week. So I will, you have them in your mailboxes. If you are watching online, just want to state that once I get a digital copy, I will forward to all the other commissioners as well.
Okay, thank you. Let me close public comment.
Oh, yeah, and then I'll do
Public
other.
comment is now closed.
All right.
Other business.
I have something.
Commissioner Long.
And I think we all feel this way. Ajay, it's your last finance meeting in
Yes.
Econ, and I was on the committees with you for 2 years. I really enjoyed working with you with Commerce.
Thank you.
You're wonderful, well-mannered, you know, always very polite. If we disagree, I really enjoyed you working with you as a commissioner, so, and I
I
hope to
did
see you
too.
in future, you know, endeavors in politics, cause you're just a class A act, and I will miss you. So I just wanted to say that. You studied, you did good, you caught on, you couldn't say you're a new commissioner, cause you caught on really darn fast, so.
Real fast.
Yeah, so I will miss you, and I know our Republican caucus will miss you, all of us, I'm gonna say it for all of us too, so.
All right, I agree.
I know you guys will, but we will too.
I was just gonna
He's one of
quickly
the good
thank
guys.
Brian and Cheryl too for all your time, you know, getting me up to speed with things, and it was a lot of learning, no
Mhm.
question.
You're a quick learner.
A lot of learning,
You're a
but you know,
quick
I
learner.
thank all of you, it's been great working with everybody, and Glenn, you know, it's been great working alongside you and on all of these things. I think that's what I'm gonna miss the most.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it
It
takes
is
you time
nice.
just to get up to speed.
Right.
And now that you finally know what you're doing,
Right.
the term's done, you know, so it's.
That was the bummer about a 2-year term.
Yeah, but you know,
It
I
is.
think it's a good crew, and depending on who all stays as part of finance here, I think it's gonna be a really good crew for the next 4 years.
Just because this was the last committee, so I thought I
Commissioner
better
Hall?
say something, you know.
And I was gonna say, I had the opportunity to finally read more about, well, I say I hadn't did much research, I just knew you was a doctor. I didn't know what kind of doctor, so I enjoyed reading your proclamation that we're gonna plan to present to you. And I just wanna remind commissioners, don't forget, if you want your name on the plaque,
Oh, yeah.
let staff know
Oh,
so
yeah,
they
well, we
can
all
have
want
it
that.
ready for next week. But
Yeah.
I appreciate serving with you and good luck
too.
and thank you and keep us well in the health order.
Yeah, he brought a different perspective with this background, so it was good.
Yeah, we all
We
would
have a
look to him for
very
help.
diverse background
We
here.
all do
Yeah.
this when health
Nice
came
to
up.
have a medical person on.
Right, no, it was.
No, it
we
was
have a-
good.
We have a very diverse background, so that added to it, so.
Yeah, I know in a couple times I referenced him like, hey, it's your expertise, how you feel about this?
Yeah, so thank you.
Professionally and personally, right? I mean,
Right.
Remember that one mall you checked out for me? That was really nice.
Yeah. He brought his.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah.
He drove me here for a couple of months when I had my hip surgery, so.
Oh, yeah, that was nice too. Yeah, see that?
All right, well, yeah, we all are really gonna miss you, Ajay.
Thank you.
If there's nothing else, I guess I'll call this meeting adjourned at 1:06.
All right, 2:00 Parks.